So as I said at the beginning of Mass, today the Church celebrates Day for Life. We celebrate the great gift and dignity of all human life from the first moment of conception until natural death. We're living in difficult times when the value of life is diminished and degraded, and where our civil laws fail to defend the weak and the vulnerable in our society, and where they also fail to uphold the most fundamental of all human rights, the right to life itself. Pope St. John Paul II, in 1995, in his encyclical on the Gospel of Life, stated that we are in the midst of an enormous battle between good and evil, between life and death. And he said that we now live in what he referred to as the culture of death, a culture in which the powerful rule over the weak and the vulnerable. And so, as Christians, we have an inescapable responsibility to choose and to defend life at all cost. When Jesus preached the gospel message 2,000 years ago, he was met with anger and hostility because his message went against the culture of that time, and it challenged those in authority to turn away from the evil they were doing. And so those in positions of power ridiculed him in an attempt to discredit him and to turn the crowds against him. And when that didn't work, they manufactured false charges against him and had him put to death. Our faith is counter-cultural, and so when we live out our faith with courage and trust, when we challenge and hold to account those who disregard the moral law of God, we too will be met with hostility and come under attack for the faith we profess. If we look at the current situation in the United States, where the secular media have perpetrated a sustained attack on President Trump in an effort to destroy his reputation and credibility, and to portray his actions as those of a fool in an attempt to turn the people against him. This is despite the fact that under his leadership, in his first 3 years in charge, the country experienced an economic resurgence. 7 million new jobs were created, and unemployment reached its lowest level in almost half a century. And low-wage earners saw a dramatic increase in their income during that period. The economy was thriving, hardly the work of an incompetent fool. And yet the secular media continue to attack Trump's character and credibility. So why has Donald Trump been subjected to such a sustained attack on his character by the secular media and by Democrats and left-wing liberals? Because President Trump is pro-family and pro-life. Donald Trump is the most pro-life president in the country's history. On January the 24th, he became the first sitting US president in history to attend the National March for Life, where he spoke with great passion. He began by saying, "We are here for a very simple reason, to defend the right of every child, born and unborn, to fulfill their God-given potential. And today, as President of the United States, I am truly proud to stand with you. All of us here understand an eternal truth. Every child is a precious and sacred gift from God. Together we must protect, cherish and defend the dignity and the sanctity of every human life. When we see the image of a baby in the womb, we glimpse the majesty of God's creation. When we hold a newborn in our arms, we know the endless love that each child brings to a family. When we watch a child grow, we see the splendour that radiates from each human soul. One life changes the world. Together, we are the voice for the voiceless." And he finished by saying that above all, we know that every human soul is divine, and every human life, born and unborn, is made in the holy image of Almighty God. Those were the words of the President of the United States as he addressed the tens of thousands who had gathered in Washington to stand and to march for life. And at the beginning of this month, Trump wrote to pro-life groups across America to tell them that with your help, I will win re-election, ensuring that we have 4 more years to fight in the trenches for unborn children and their mothers. And then on Friday, the 28th of September, the President signed an executive order to ensure that all babies born alive, including those who survive failed abortion attempts, will receive the proper medical care that they need to live. And on the following day, he named Amy Coney Barrett as his nominee to replace the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the Supreme Court. Miss Barrett is a devout Catholic mother who is pro-family and pro-life. And so it's no surprise that she too has become the target of a vicious attack by Democrats and the secular media. Is Donald Trump perfect? No. Has he made mistakes? Yes. Like all of us gathered here today, he is a sinner seeking to make his way through this valley of tears. But what President Trump has got is a well-formed moral conscience, and he has done more for the pro-family and pro-life cause than any other sitting US president in history. One thing that he can never be accused of is lacking courage. He has been absolutely fearless in his defence of the unborn, even when his character was torn apart by the media and by fellow politicians, and even when he faced false accusations and impeachment, he has remained steadfast in his defence of the family and all human life. Those who seek to portray him as a fool should read the words of St. Paul. We are all fools for the sake of Christ. Donald Trump is willing to suffer indignation and ridicule for the sake of Christ and for the sake of life. So today is a day for us to reflect on what we have done for life, especially the most vulnerable of all human life, unborn babies in their mothers' wombs. Have we done all that we can to protect and defend the most innocent of all God's children? Are we willing to become fools in the eyes of the world for the sake of Christ and for the sake of life? I invite you to